Hello everyone! Welcome to the video reporting of Group 2. And in this video, we will be discussing about Lesson 7, titled Outcome-Based Education for Teacher Preparation Curriculum. So please watch the whole video and I hope you learn something from us. But before we dig into our topic, let me first share the objectives or the outcomes that we are expecting you to have after the lesson. So first, we will be able to define what is outcome-based education as this applies to teacher education. 2. Analyze the 4 principles in outcome-based education. 3rd, describe how teaching and learning relate to OBE. And 4th, explain how the achieved learning outcomes will be assessed. Lastly, we will be able to summarize the prospective teacher's roles and responsibilities in the implementation of the outcome-based education. So now, let's talk about the outcome-based education or OBE. So what is outcome-based education? So it is a way of teaching that focuses on what students are expected to learn and be able to do by the end of a lesson or a course. Instead of just covering topics, OBE starts with clear goals for the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that students should need to achieve. Teachers then organize lessons, activities, and assessments to help students reach these goals. The main idea is that all parts of education, curriculum, teaching, and testing work together to ensure students gain the learning outcomes they need to succeed in life, work, and the community. And in OBE, an outcomes-based approach, there is 3 premises that we must put in our mind. So the first one, all students can learn and succeed, but not at the same time or in the same way. Number 2, successful learning promotes even more successful learning. And number 3, schools and teachers control the conditions that will determine if the students are successful in school learning. And of course, in order to comply with the 3 premises, 4 essential principles should be followed in either planning instructions, teaching, and assessing learning. So there are 4 essential principles in OBE. So the first one is clarity of focus, principle 2, designing backwards, and the principle 3, high expectations, and the principle 4, expanded opportunities. So let's discuss first the first principle, which is the clarity of focus. So what is the principle 1? So one of the 4 essential principles of OBE is the clarity of focus. This means teachers need to be very clear about what students should learn and be able to do by the end of a lesson or course. Both teachers and students should know the knowledge, skills, and values that must be achieved. Having this clear focus is like looking straight at the target. It helps guide teaching, learning, and assessment so that the desired learning outcomes are reached successfully. In OBE, knowing the goal first ensures that everything in the classroom is designed to help students achieve it. Now, the second principle of outcomes-based education is designing backwards. So this means that when planning a lesson or curriculum, teachers start by deciding the learning outcomes first. What students should know and be able to do at the end. So once the outcomes are clear, all teaching activities and assessments are planned to reach those goals. In other words, every step in the learning process is connected to the desired result, making sure students achieve the intended outcomes. So the third principle of OBE is the high expectations. This means teachers should set challenging but achievable standards to encourage students do their best. When students are pushed to aim higher, they are more motivated to improve and learn more effectively. This idea fits Spady's belief that successful learning leads to more success. It also connects to Thorndike's law of effect, which says that when students experience success, they become more confident and motivated, making them want to keep improving. High expectations help students grow and reach their full potential. So now let's proceed to the last principle, or the fourth principle of OBE is expanded opportunities. So this means giving all students enough chances, time, and support to succeed, because every learner has different strengths and ways of learning. OBE believes that all students can excel when they are provided with the right learning experience. This idea follows the belief in multiple intelligences, that every child has unique potentials or genius within them. With the proper opportunities, guidance, and encouragement, students can develop these abilities and achieve their best. In outcomes-based education, teaching is considered effective only when students truly learn. The focus is not just on what the teacher teaches, but on what the students actually understand and can do. Teaching should help students connect ideas across subjects, learn how to learn, and apply what they have learned in the real situations. To do this, teachers need to be creative and use strategies that support meaningful learning.
Learners' responsibility for learning. Outcome-based education emphasizes that students are responsible for their own learning and progress. Teachers only serve as guides who facilitate learning and help students reach specific outcomes. It encourages learners to understand what they need to learn, why it is important, and how they can achieve it. The six guiding questions help students reflect on their goals, progress, and assessments. This approach helps learners become active, independent, and self-directed in their education. Intended learning outcomes of the lesson. The intended learning outcomes are the goals that a teacher wants students to achieve by the end of the lesson. They give clear direction about what knowledge, skills, or attitudes students are expected to develop. These outcomes help both teachers and learners stay focused on the main objectives of the lesson. In OBE, learning outcomes are specific, measurable, and student centered. They ensure that teaching and activities are aligned with what students need to learn. For activities to accomplish the intended learning outcomes, activities are the tasks and experiences designed to help students achieve the intended learning outcomes. This may include group work, discussion, experiments, or problem solving tasks. The activities should be engaging, meaningful, and related to the lesson objectives. In OBE, learning activities allow students to apply what they learn in real or practical ways. They serve as the bridge between the teacher's objectives and the student's actual performance. For achieved learning outcomes at the end of the lesson, the achieved learning outcomes show what students have actually learned after the lesson. This part measures whether the intended goals were successfully met. It focuses on the results of learning what students can demonstrate, explain, or perform. An OBE achievement is determined through assessment and observation of student performance. This ensures that teaching is effective and that students truly mastered the expected competencies.
Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, will produce teachers who show evidence of the following achieved outcomes after 4 years of schooling and earned a degree. Outcome 1 is all about demonstrated basic and higher levels of literacy for teaching and learning. This means that as a future teachers, we should have a strong communication skills. We need to be able to read, write, speak, and understand information effectively. Literacy is not only about reading books, but also about being able to explain ideas clearly to our students. For example, when you're teaching English, you need to read stories, explain vocabulary, and guide students in writing essays. If your literacy skills are strong, your students will also become confident readers and writers. Next is outcome 2. Demonstrated deep and principled understanding of the teaching and learning process. This means understanding how students learn, not just teaching them facts, but knowing what helped them truly understand. Every learner is different, so teachers must be patient and flexible in their approach. Let's say some of your students will learn best through visual, while others prefer group discussions. If you know this, you can design lessons that include pictures, short videos, and teamwork. This way, everyone gets to learn effectively. Outcome 3. Mastered and apply the subject matter content and pedagogical principles appropriate for teaching and learning. As future teachers, we must know what to teach and how to teach it. Having knowledge of the topic is not enough. We need to explain it in ways that make sense to our students. For example, if you're teaching math, you don't just memorize formulas. You explain why those formulas work and show fun ways to practice them, like solving problems using real objects or games. That's how you combine mastery of content and teaching skills. Next is the outcome 4. Applied a wide range of teaching related skills in curriculum development, instructional material production, learning assessment, and teaching delivery. This means teachers should be creative planners. We must know how to make lesson plans, create teaching materials, and give quizzes and deliver lessons effectively. Like, for example, a teacher might design a weekly lesson plan, make a PowerPoint presentation, print worksheets, and use games for review. After the lesson, they can give a short quiz or group project to check if students really learned. Outcome 5. Articulated and applied clear understanding of how educational processes relate to political, historical, social, and cultural context. Meaning education is not just about lessons in class. It's connected to the society around us. Teachers should understand how culture, history, and even politics affect education and students' lives. Just like when teaching history, a teacher can discuss real events in the community and connect them to the lesson. Next, we have here the outcome 6, which is facilitated learning in various classroom settings, diverse learners coming from different cultural backgrounds. So here, teacher must be inclusive. That means accepting and respecting all students no matter their language, culture, or abilities. Every student deserves to feel valued and understood. Let's say in one class, there might be a student from another region who speak a different dialect, or a student with a learning disability. A good teacher adjusts by using visuals or simple language, or maybe pairing them with supportive classmates. Outcome 7, which is all about experience, direct field, and clinical activities in the teaching milieu as an observer, assistant, or practice teacher. So, before becoming a licensed teacher, education students must experience teaching in real classrooms. This allows us to apply theories we learned in actual situations. Like, let's say, during your practice teaching, you'll first observe your mentor teacher, then later you'll handle lesson yourself. You'll learn classroom management, lesson delivery, and how to deal with real students' behavior. Things you can't learn only from books, right? Okay, so let's proceed to outcome 8, which is all about created and innovative alternative teaching approaches to improve students' learning. Meaning, teachers should be innovative and creative. We shouldn't just rely on traditional lectures. We should think of fun, modern, and meaningful ways to teach. So instead of just writing on the board, a teacher can use interactive apps like Kahoot or create mini group projects where students act out lessons. Like during the pandemic, many teachers use online games or TikTok styles videos to help students learn better. That's innovation. Okay, so outcome 9 is all about practice, professional, and ethical standards for teachers anchored for both local and global perspective. So here, teachers are role models, meaning we should always act professionally, responsibly, and ethically inside and out the classroom. Like, for example, being punctual, dressing properly, treating students equally, and keeping student information private. Also, being respectful in online settings like in group chats or social media because teachers represent the teaching profession. And lastly, the outcome 10, which is all about pursued continuously lifelong learning for personal and professional growth as teachers. So it means learning never stops, even for teachers. Education changes over time. So teachers need to keep learning new teaching methods, technologies, and ideas. Like, for example, a teacher might attend seminars, webinars, or even study again for a master's degree. They might also learn to use new technology like digital whiteboards or online classrooms. This helps them stay updated and better support their students. So these outcomes clause are set at the beginning of your degree plan. You must put this to heart so as you go along you will be able to master this in 4 years and will be ready to be employed after you get your teacher's license. Okay, so now let's move on to the competencies of quality teacher as mandated by the Department of Education Order number 42 series 2017. Philippines Professional Standards for Teachers, or the PPST. So this means that DepEd made a list of important skills and knowledge that teachers need when they start teaching in basic education, like in elementary or high school. They are called teacher competencies. The focus is on beginning teachers or those who are new to the job, usually fresh graduates. These competencies help new teachers become ready for real classroom work. They guide them on how to teach well, manage students, and handle school responsibilities. It also means that everything they learned in college will now be used and improved in their actual teaching job. In short, these competencies help new teachers become more confident, skilled, and effective in providing quality education. The PPSD is divided into 7 domains, each describing an important area of teaching competence. First, we have here the domain 1, which is about competencies on content knowledge and pedagogy. So here, teachers must know the subject they are teaching and use good ways to help students understand. For example, a math teacher uses drawings or real objects to explain fractions clearly. Next, we have here the domain 2, which is about competencies on the learning environment. So here, teachers should make the classroom safe, clean, and fun so students can learn better. For example, the teacher set class rules and praises students who behave and participate. Next is the domain 3, competencies on diversity of learners. Here, teachers should understand that students have different abilities and needs. So, for example, the teacher gives simple tasks to struggling learners and extra activities to those fast learners. And domain 4, competencies on curriculum and planning. Here, teachers must plan their lessons based on what DepEd requires and make sure learning goals are met. For example, before teaching, the teacher prepares materials and activities that match the lesson plan. Okay, so let's go for the domain 5, which is about competencies on assessment and reporting. So teachers should check how well students are learning and give feedback to help them improve. For example, after giving a test, the teacher explains the answer and helps students learn from their mistakes. And next is the domain 6, competencies on community linkages and professional engagement. Here, teachers must work with parents, co-teachers, and the community to support students. For example, a teacher invites parents to attend meetings or programs that involve their children's progress. And lastly, the domain 7, which is about competencies on personal growth and professional development. So teachers here should continue learning new skills to become better educators. So for example, a teacher joins seminars or training to learn new ways of teaching students. The PPSD is divided into 7 domains, each describing an important area of teaching competence. First, we have here the domain 1, which is about competencies on content knowledge and pedagogy. So here, teachers must know the subject they are teaching and use good ways to help students understand. For example, a math teacher uses drawings or real objects to explain fractions clearly. Next, we have here the domain 2, which is about competencies on the learning environment. So here, teachers should make the classroom safe, clean, and fun so students can learn better. For example, the teacher set class rules and praises students who behave and participate. Next is the domain 3, competencies on diversity of learners. Here, teachers should understand that students have different abilities and needs. So, for example, the teacher gives simple tasks to struggling learners and extra activities to those fast learners. And domain 4, competencies on curriculum and planning. Here, teachers must plan their lessons based on what DepEd requires and make sure learning goals are met. For example, before teaching, the teacher prepares materials and activities that match the lesson plan. Okay, so let's go for the domain 5, which is about competencies on assessment and reporting. So teachers should check how well students are learning and give feedback to help them improve. For example, after giving a test, the teacher explains the answer and helps students learn from their mistakes. And next is the domain 6, competencies on community linkages and professional engagement. Here, teachers must work with parents, co-teachers, and the community to support students. For example, a teacher invites parents to attend meetings or programs that involve their children's progress. And lastly, the domain 7, which is about competencies on personal growth and professional development. So teachers here should continue learning new skills to become better educators. So for example, a teacher joins seminars or training to learn new ways of teaching students. The Philippine Qualifications Framework, or PQF, is like a ladder or a standard system that describes what learners should know and be able to do after finishing a certain level of education, from elementary all the way to doctorate degrees. For teachers, PQF Level 6 represents the bachelor's degree level, which means someone who has finished college and is ready for professional work. In this case, teaching. The PQF Level 6 has three main outcomes that describes what a graduate should be.
The teacher and the community, school, culture, and leadership. So this highlights the teacher role beyond the classroom as a leader, role model, and a community partner. Teacher helps build a positive school culture and work with parents and community to make the curriculum meaningful and relevant to real life. Foundation of Special and Inclusive Education. So this focuses on educating learners with diverse needs. Teacher must understand inclusive practices to ensure that every child, regardless of ability or disability, learns and participates in the curriculum equally. Foundation, theories, and concepts. This focuses on educational philosophies and learning theories like behaviorism, constructivism, humanism that guide how teachers design lesson and shape the curriculum. This foundation helps teachers understand why and how students learn best. The child and adolescent learning principle. So this deals with how children and teenagers learn and develop physically, emotionally, socially, and intellectually. Knowing this principle help teachers create age-appropriate lessons and choose teaching strategies that match student needs and abilities. So the teaching profession. This emphasizes that teaching is noble and professional career that requires competence, ethics, and dedication. So these teachers are curriculum implements, meaning they bring the curriculum to life through effective instruction and assessment. Pedagogical content knowledge. So the first one is facilitating learner-centered teaching and learning. This focuses on making students active participants in their learning. Teacher act as guide, designing activities that let learner explore, discover, and apply knowledge. The goal is to develop critical thinking and independence. The second one is assessment in learning 1 and 2. So these subjects cover how teachers measure and support student learning. They include creating tests, rubrics, and performance tasks to check what students know and can do. Assessment helps improve teaching and learning outcomes and aligns with curriculum goals. The third one is technology for teaching and learning 1. This emphasizes the uses of digital tools like multimedia, online platforms, and apps to make lesson more engaging. Teachers learn how to integrate technology effectively to enhance understanding and connect learning to the real world. experiential learning courses. So these courses helps future teachers apply what they learn in real classroom settings. They bridge the gap between theory and actual teaching practice. So the first one is the field study 1, or observation of teaching and learning. Students observe real classes to understand how teaching and learning happen. They focuses on how teachers manage the class, deliver lessons, and engage students. The second one is the field study 2, participation and teaching assistantship. Students begin to assist teacher in planning and facilitating lessons. This stage allowed them to experience classroom responsibilities and apply basic teaching skill. The last one is teaching internship. This is the culminating experience where student teachers teach full lessons under supervision. It develops their confidence, teaching and competence, and professional identity as a future educators.